I just wanted to add in a little trigger warning for this video. I'll be talking about self-harm. There's a couple of mentions of suicide. So if that's kind of triggering for you right now, I would maybe click away from this video and watch it another time, or not at all. It's just when talking about side effects and talking about meds, it just comes up sometimes. So yeah, just wanted to put that in as a little disclaimer. I'll also put it in the description box too. But I wanted to make sure that that's at the beginning of the video before it begins and everyone's aware. Hello everyone. Still in lockdown, thankfully. There are all these talks about it being lifted on tomorrow, which is terrifying, so trying not to think about that. I'm wearing makeup today. Just decided to put a bit of lipstick and stuff on for this video. I'm not really sure why, I just felt like it. I don't know whether to leave my glasses on or off, because I can see without them. I just see better with them. So yeah, I decided to make this video today because at the minute my mental health's very much here or here. And I don't know when I'm next going to have a day where I have the energy to get out of bed, because for the last 3 days I haven't. I was in hospital Sunday, Monday, which I don't want to talk about. While today's a good day, I will film the video that was most requested on Instagram the other day. I want to do like one mental health video, maybe not one a week, but maybe one every 2 weeks or something like that. So one that's specifically about mental health. And when I put out the question on my Instagram, I just noticed my hair's quite uneven. I cut my own hair. It was kind of like getting to be really long, and this is the first time I'm seeing it like up close and I'm noticing some long bits. Never mind, ignore it. I'll cut it later. And anyway, yeah, the most requested one was the psychiatric medication I've been on, or I'm currently on, and side effects, if it helped me or not. So I made a list. There's quite a few because I've tried quite a lot of different things. So I'm just going to talk through, first I'll list them, what they are. To be honest, I haven't Googled, so I'm just going from memory. And then I'll go into my experience with them, the side effects I suffered, and how successful I feel the medication was. So the first meds I ever took for my mental health, I was about, I would say 14 when I was put on this for the first time, and that was propranolol, which is a beta blocker for anxiety. So that was the first thing I was ever on. Then from propranolol, a couple of years after that, actually maybe one or when I was 16 I think, I was on citalopram, which is an antidepressant. Then I switched to sertraline, which is another antidepressant. That was about 6 months after that. Then I was on sertraline for a while. Then during the time I was on sertraline, I was put on mirtazapine, which is a antidepressant but also a sedative. I think it has a big sedative effect on most people, so it's used as a sedative as well. And then shortly after that I was put on quetiapine, which is an antipsychotic. Then from the quetiapine I also was given diazepam around the same time, which is a benzodiazepine, and it is a anti-anxiety thing, calms you down basically. Then there was a period of time where I just took diazepam as and when I needed it, and no other meds. I had about 3 years off meds apart from diazepam. And then about, I would say about 7 or 8 months ago, I went on fluoxetine, and I was on that for a few months, which is a antidepressant again, an SSRI. And then I'm currently taking venlafaxine, which is an SNRI, I think. And then also along the lines, somewhere along the lines, I actually was put on the contraceptive pill for mental health reasons. I suffered a lot with my moods, because with depression and BPD, my moods were all over the place anyway, and when I was about to get my period, my mood would drop massively. So I was put on the contraceptive pill to help with that. I'm going to go through the list and talk about side effects. Propranolol didn't work for me. I took it for about 3 months and then I couldn't take it anymore. A big part of my anxiety is my health. I have quite severe health anxiety. It did take away the physical symptoms of anxiety, and I wish that it had worked for me as well as that. It also gave me a constant ringing in my ears, like constant. Whenever I took one, it's like a minute later I had a ringing in my ears. And my head was just as anxious as it had been before. So while it stopped the nausea and it stopped the shaking and it's like the physical symptoms of anxiety, it worked for it, got rid of them. My head was still just as anxious, and this ringing in my ears convinced me I had a brain tumour or I was about to have an aneurysm, like those kinds of things. It wasn't good for me. The most predominant physical symptom I used to suffer with was constant nausea. And when I say constant nausea, I mean constant nausea. Like the only relief I had from nausea was when I was asleep, and if I woke up in the night, nauseous straight away. So that was when it was really bad. And it took that away, you know, temporarily for maybe an hour while it was working. So yeah, that was the first thing I was put on when I think I was 14, because I was at CAMS at the time and they prescribed that. But yeah, I didn't have much success with it, so I stopped taking it. I couldn't cope with the ringing in my ears. It made me way too paranoid about my health. Between propranolol and the next med I was on, which is citalopram, there was quite a bit of time. There was about 2 years, so in that 2 years I kind of didn't take anything. I was still going to CAMS, etc., and I just didn't take any meds. And then after, I think I was about 16 or 17, the next med I was put on was citalopram. So I was on citalopram for a very, very short period of time because I'd been taking it around, I don't know, 3 weeks. And the first serious overdose I ever took was while I was on citalopram in the first few weeks. And I was hospitalised for 2 days. The mental health team, crisis team, etc. that saw me then just said it probably is a direct side effect of starting citalopram. I kept on it for another 3 weeks, I think, but the side effects weren't going away, and I was really struggling with the suicidal thoughts. So yeah, I came off that pretty quickly after going on it, and again there was a period of time where I didn't go on any meds. There was maybe, I don't know, 6 months between coming off of citalopram and going on to sertraline. So sertraline was the next one I was on, which is a SSRI. Sertraline is the one I was on for the longest. I was on sertraline for about 2 years. Eventually I came off of it because I felt I was in a better place. And sertraline for me, it worked, as in, it didn't bring my mood up, but it lessened the intensity of the depression. So the depression was there, but I was functional. And the thing that I struggled with sertraline, firstly going on it, the side effects were horrible. Diarrhea, vomiting, couldn't get out of bed for about a week because I felt so fatigued. So at first I was on 50 milligrams, and then it got increased to 100, then 150, and then eventually I was on the full dose. I was on 200 milligrams for the longest time that I was on it. And it made me very, very numb. So while I wasn't as depressed, my mood was here constantly. It was never above this line, and I couldn't cry. I couldn't feel excited about things. I felt every mood that I had was very artificial. And I've always been someone who loves a good cry at a film, because it makes me feel like I'm getting out some negative emotions. But I just couldn't cry at all. I remember at the time in my life someone quite close to me died and I didn't cry, because the sertraline had that much of an effect on my emotions. So yes, I wasn't as depressed, but I also couldn't feel happiness, I couldn't feel excitement, etc. Another issue with sertraline, to be honest, this was partly my fault. When I came off of it, it was horrific. The withdrawals from sertraline were awful. People compare it to coming off of crack. I was like shaking constantly, just being sick. I had brain zaps where I would forget what I was saying in the middle of a sentence. Like, I was constantly, absolutely, desperately thirsty. It was horrible. I basically for 2 weeks, because I came off it too quickly, I didn't tell my doctor. I was like, no, I don't want to be on it anymore, and I tapered myself down really quickly, and so partly that's my fault, and especially going from the max dose to 25 milligrams in 2 weeks, that's probably why I suffered with the withdrawals so bad. However, it really put me off antidepressants, so yeah, that was a big issue for me with sertraline. Well, like I said, it probably was my fault because I came off it too fast, and if you're thinking of coming off of any psychiatric medication, you have to see your doctor about it or your psychiatrist about it and be sensible and come off slowly and gradually and safely. So yeah, that was sertraline. It did its job. I wasn't as depressed. But then again, there were also their negatives, like I've mentioned. Around the time of coming off of sertraline is when I had my big BPD breakdown, my biggest one. And during that time I didn't sleep for days, and I was up and down, my moods were all over the place. And at this point, this is when I was put on 2 medications. So the first one was mirtazapine, which it's an antidepressant, but it has a really, really big sedative effect. And I was on that for 3 weeks, and the reason is I slept for 16 hours a day, felt like a zombie the whole time I was awake, and was absolutely desperately hungry the whole time I was awake. So I gained over a stone in 3 weeks. Now, for someone with a history of eating disorders, anorexia, bulimia, etc., gaining a stone in 3 weeks was literally the worst thing that could have happened to me. So yeah, I caught up on sleep, but the weight gain was horrific, and it made my depression even worse because I couldn't stand to look at myself. My face was massive. I went up 4 bra sizes. Like, it was, honestly, it was horrible. So came off of that very quickly. I just said to my doctor, like, I cannot cope with this eating all the time, because like it made me desperately hungry. Like, I'd eat and then sleep for 16 hours. Then I would wake up and be so hungry I would eat anything, like literally anything I could find in the house. So it'd be like 2 in the morning and I'd be stuffing food down my face, and it just reminded me too much of my binge eating days. So that, again, 3 weeks I was on that, and then I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. Shortly after that I was put on quetiapine, which is an antipsychotic, because my moods were very, very up and down. I was kind of having mild psychotic episodes. I was back and forth to A&E constantly with suicidal thoughts, self-harm, really, really bad. So my psychiatrist at the time just said, I'm just going to try you on an antipsychotic, like a mild dose, just to see if that helps. And then I was on quetiapine for I wasn't on it long because I didn't react very well to it. I think I was on it for about 2 months. Psychiatric meds are not easy on the body or the brain, because I think I've found over the years, and my psychiatrists over the years have said, I'm clearly someone who just reacts very, very sensitively to medication. It's physical medication as well. The quetiapine, I didn't last very long on it at all, and I'm in the process of trying to find something similar that's not that specific med. And my old psychiatrist, who wants to get me on some sort of mood stabilizing meds, and it's probably going to be an antipsychotic, but there's so many others that I could try. So after the quetiapine, I was given diazepam as a PRN, so it was kind of like, take it as and when you need it. If you're anxious, pop 2 milligrams. My doctor said to me, personally, I could take up to 10 in one go. But I was very aware that it's quite an addictive medication, and I have quite an addictive personality. So I'm still on diazepam to this day. I've been taking it for about 4 years maybe. When my anxiety is good, I don't take it for months on end. When it's bad, I might take it a couple of times a week. When it's really bad, I might take it several times a day for a period of days. Like when I was in hospital on Sunday, Monday, I was given it regularly to keep me calm, and I was given like 12 milligrams at a time, which is the highest I've ever taken. But usually 2 milligrams helped so much. So I would be panicking, I'd start to feel really anxious. I would take 2 milligrams, within half an hour, calm. If it didn't work, I'd just take 4. I've never ever needed to take more than 6. So diazepam for me, out of all the meds I've ever been on, has had the most success. Diazepam works. There's very little side effects, or I experienced very little side effects. The first couple of days I took it, when I took it, it made me very, very drowsy. Like I could hardly keep my eyes open. And since then I've had no side effects. Apart from diazepam, over the last 2 years, I would say, I've been off meds. Around the middle of last year, I went through not a bad breakup, because it wasn't a bad breakup in terms of the breakup itself. It was just that I'd become extremely attached to the person, and when we broke up, it was very hard on me. And I kind of spiraled down a little bit. And around October, we broke up in August, and around October, this was also a month after I'd started back at college, but then I started to think about like the fact that I'm going to university, I need to be present in classes, I need to be getting assignments in. So I thought that being on some sort of medication would help me. And so I went on fluoxetine. I've had very, very minimal side effects. It really affected my sleep in the beginning, but then I stopped taking it at night and started taking it in the morning, and that helped massively. In terms of side effects, they're manageable though. And I noticed an improvement quite quickly with fluoxetine. So I started on the minimum dose, I think it was like 10, then I went to 20, and then I went to 30. And still, although I noticed an improvement, I was still struggling a lot. And for my weight, height, age, they don't recommend going above 30 milligrams. So I was on fluoxetine for 5 months, gradually increasing it, monitoring it, and then, yeah, I wasn't having much success. So my GP, about, I would say 3 weeks ago now, put me on venlafaxine. So I'm in the early stages of that med, and I'm thinking that the reason I'm having quite a big blip at the moment with my mental health is because of the venlafaxine. My body's adjusting to it, my brain's adjusting to it. I think once my brain gets used to this new medication and I find the dose that's right for me, I'll be fine and I'll be functioning again. So venlafaxine for me, not many side effects. The first couple of days, very like tired and lightheaded, dry mouth again. I did suffer with insomnia quite bad, but I'm on my 3rd week now. But hopefully I'll have more of a gauge on whether it is helping me soon. I'm going to be on this dose, which is 37.5, twice a day, once in the morning and once at night, for another week, and then my GP is going to increase it to the next dose. We'll see how it goes. And then lastly, the last medicine I've ever been on to help with my mental health, I was put on the contraceptive pill, and it was microgynon, I think I'm saying it right, because during PMS my mood would drop severely. I would be suicidal every month before my period, and every month I would be like scared of my period coming. I went on it because of it helped my mood, and I was on the contraceptive pill for about 2 years, and in terms of my PMS symptoms, it helped a lot. PMS was much less severe. However, a downside of that, again, I gained weight. I gained about 10 pounds over the first 6 months on that, and so as soon as I came off the pill, the weight came off. Yeah, that's the list. Side effects, my experience with them. Obviously every single med will react differently to a different person. Like I would always recommend trying them, even if you go on the internet and you Google it and you read all these horror stories of people having these awful side effects. Like, don't let it stop you from trying them, because what works for someone else won't work for you, and vice versa. And just because the internet is saying, don't go on this med, it'll mess you up, it'll fuck up everything, like, try, because you just never know how it's going to affect you. I'm glad that I've tried and given all of the things that I've been on a good go, apart from the ones that were too dangerous for me to continue. And as long as you have a good communication with your GP, psychiatrist, whoever's in charge of your care, and you can communicate how you're feeling and what's happening on these meds, and, you know, get regular checkups, you should be okay. Obviously, you have to be aware that with most psychiatric medication, you're going to feel worse before you feel better, and it's very, very important that you remember that. And that's why good communication with your care team is important. I think that's everything. I hope everyone is staying safe. I hope everyone is resting and keeping our heads up, staying positive. Although, it's okay to cry sometimes, it's okay to be scared, it's okay to be disappointed. Remember that. So hopefully I'll see you guys soon with another video. Thank you for watching.